Hello friends, welcome to the Score Booster series for Prelims 2026 by Drishti IAS. I'll be covering some more current affairs topics which are very important and relevant for UPSC Prelims 2026. CAT Alliance was in news because it has become a treaty-based intergovernmental organization. Some other institutions and individuals are also celebrating their 100 years or 150 years. We should remember them. So, Vande Mataram, 150 years, right? This is a statement which can be asked in question. Which country has the world's largest proven oil reserves? So, it is Venezuela, but its production is less because of sanctions and other issues. Now, US has exited multiple international organizations. So, some of the prominent ones. So, US has exited WHO, UNESCO, International Solar Alliance, UNFCCC, UN Women, UN Population Fund, right? So, here International Solar Alliance is important. This is an organization where India and France are co-founders. Again, a very significant topic from where question is likely, because Indian government has recently launched this nationwide human papilloma virus, this vaccination program for girls. So that is why Anthropic has given 12 tech companies access to Mythos via Project Glasswing. So Project Glasswing, right? It is very important. So chemicals can be asked, the name of the companies can be asked, their products can be asked. So Ozempic, you need to remember, Ozempic, Wegovy. Then GPS spoofing, this term was also in news. So GPS spoofing basically is a type of cyber attack in which false GPS signals are transmitted to mislead the navigation systems. And US has GPS, right? The Global Positioning System, GLONASS of Russia, Baidu of China, Galileo of Europe, QZSS of Japan, and NavIC. These are very important facts about Somnath temple, and because the Somnath Swabhiman Parv is being celebrated, so a question is very likely from this area. Hello friends, welcome to the Score Booster series for Prelims 2026 by Drishti IAS, and this is part 2 of the current affairs marathon session that I had taken. So we have already done the part 1 in which I have covered the important topics, and in the same sequence I will be covering some more current affairs topics which are very important and relevant for UPSC Prelims 2026. So the last topic that we had seen there was about the International Big Cat Alliance. So let us start from there itself. And I told you that International Big Cat Alliance was in news because it has become a treaty-based intergovernmental organization after 5 countries ratified it. Which are these 5 countries? So you can remember it by this acronym LINES, LINES. So it is Liberia, India, Nicaragua, Eswatini, and Somalia, right? So you can remember it by this acronym LINES. Now, the nodal agency for IBCA, International Big Cat Alliance, is NTCA, which is National Tiger Conservation Authority, and the NTCA is headed by Minister of Environment and Forest, the Union Minister for Environment and Forest. The headquarter of IBCA is in New Delhi, and recently the country which joined in December 2025 the IBCA is Russia, right? It happened during the visit of President Putin to India. Now, the first assembly of IBCA was held in New Delhi in June 2025, and it endorsed Bhupendra Yadav ji as president of IBCA, who is the Union Minister for Environment and Forest. Now, this assembly of IBCA is the top decision making body, apex decision making body, and it will be convened biennially, that means once in 2 years. So this we had already seen. Now let's look at IBCA. IBCA was launched by India as to celebrate the 50 successful years of Project Tiger. Project Tiger was launched in 1973, and when Project Tiger completed its 50 years in 2023, Indian government launched IBCA, right? And the membership of IBCA is open to all UN member states. Now, at present there are around 95 big cat range countries and non-range countries with an interest in big cat conservation which are part of IBCA. Now, what is the difference between range countries and non-range countries? So, range countries for any wild animal means those countries where that wild animal is found naturally, right? So, these are range countries. For example, India, Bangladesh, they are range countries for tiger, naturally found. So range countries are where an animal is found naturally, right? So IBCA is open to both range and non-range countries. Now, which are the big cats? So there are 7 big cat species which are covered under this. It includes tiger, lion, leopard, snow leopard, cheetah, jaguar and puma. Out of these, only jaguar and puma are not found in India, right? Rest of the other are found in India. Cheetah had got extinct in 1952, but now we have reintroduced cheetah in the Kuno Palpur National Park. Right. Now, big cats are also known as keystone species. So, this term also we should know, keystone species. It can be asked in exam. Now, what are keystone species? They actually hold the ecosystem together. So, they are very, very important for the ecosystem. Now, they play a disproportionately large effect on their ecosystem relative to their abundance. Like their numbers may be less, but they have a disproportionate role in maintaining that ecosystem, right? So, they are known as the keystone species. So, big cats are also keystone species. Next, we should know a term which was in news, which is sentinel species. What are sentinel species? So, sentinel species are those species whose members' health signals the condition of the ecosystem in which they live, right? So, their health actually signals how the health of the ecosystem is there, right? They can provide early warning of ecosystem decline, and frogs is an excellent example of a sentinel species, right? Sentinel who is on guard. So, among the first to respond to any stressors in their environment such as pollution or disease, and their response also tends to be more apparent than most other species. That is why they are known as sentinel species. Example is frogs. Right. Next, let's look at NTCA, the National Tiger Conservation Authority. So, the National Tiger Conservation Authority, it is a statutory body, right? That means it has been created under a law, and the law is Wildlife Protection Act 1972. This is also very significant. Wildlife Protection Act 1972, it's a statutory body, and it functions under the Ministry of Environment and Forest and Climate Change, and it was established in 2005. The chairperson of NTCA, as we have already discussed, it is the Union Minister for Environment and Forest, and it oversees Project Tiger and Project Cheetah, right? And Project Tiger is a centrally sponsored scheme. Now, we should know some constitutional articles also which are related to environment and wildlife. So, Article 48A, which is in DPSP, it directs the state to safeguard forest and wildlife. Whereas Article 51A clause G, which is in fundamental duties, it talks about protection of wildlife, or it imposes a duty on the citizens that they have to protect the wildlife, right? Now, forest as a subject is in the concurrent list, right? Also, wildlife protection is also in the concurrent list. Forest, wildlife protection, etc., they are in the concurrent list. Sometimes such questions are also asked in exam. Now, let's look at Project Cheetah. Cheetah, I already told you in the last class that the latest African country from which we have brought cheetah is Botswana, right? Botswana in Africa. So, you should look it up in Atlas as well. So, the 3 countries from where we have brought cheetah so far are can be remembered as Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, BNS, Botswana, Namibia and South Africa. So, Project Cheetah was launched in 2022, and it is administered by NTCA, National Tiger Conservation Authority, Department of Forest Madhya Pradesh and Wildlife Institute of India, right? It's a collaboration between these 3. Now, cheetah had become extinct from India in 1952, and the official mascot to create awareness for Project Cheetah is known as Chintu cheetah, right? So, this is also significant. Chintu cheetah is the mascot for creating awareness about Project Cheetah. Now, 9 cheetahs have been recently brought from Botswana, right? Botswana is the latest country, and the other countries are Namibia and South Africa, right? Botswana, Namibia and South Africa. And they have been brought to Kuno National Park, right? From Namibia, we had brought 8 cheetahs. From South Africa, we had brought 12 cheetahs. The sequence was from Namibia in 2022. So, Namibia is number 1, then from South Africa, and then from Botswana, right? Now, cheetah acts as a flagship species for conserving savanna habitats. Savanna habitats, basically grassland habitats. Okay, and world's first intercontinental wild carnivore translocation project is Project Cheetah, right? So it's the uh, world's first intercontinental wild carnivore translocation project, right? Because from African continent to Asian continent or Indian subcontinent, we have brought the cheetahs, right? And this cheetahs reintroduction in India, we should know. So initially they have been brought to the Kuno Palpur National Park in Madhya Pradesh, and alternative habitats have also been planned, right? So they have also been introduced in the Gandhi Sagar Wildlife Sanctuary. So already relocation is happening here. That is also in Madhya Pradesh, and Noradehi Wildlife Sanctuary in Madhya Pradesh. It has been identified for future expansion. So both these names, Gandhi Sagar Wildlife Sanctuary and Noradehi Wildlife Sanctuary, we should remember, right? And cheetah's scientific name is Acinonyx jubatus, and cheetahs are of Asian type and African type, right? The African cheetah IUCN status is vulnerable. The Asian cheetah, which is only found in Iran, it is critically endangered. Very few are left. The speed of cheetah is around 110 to 120 kilometers per hour, and it is the fastest land animal on earth, right? So this also we should know. Now, cheetah is considered a flagship species. We have already seen the keystone species and sentinel species. Now, let's see what is a flagship species. So, a flagship species is a particular animal or plant chosen to represent a conservation campaign, right? Chosen to represent a conservation campaign or an entire ecosystem because it is charismatic, well known, or culturally significant, right? So, that is the reason for choosing a representative species as a flagship species. Example can be giant panda, Bengal tiger, African elephant, etc. Right. Next we come to Western Ghats. Western Ghats was also in news because Madhav Gadgil ji, who was a famous ecologist, he passed away recently, and that is why Western Ghats was in news, because he had authored a report for the conservation of Western Ghats. So in that context, we should know about Western Ghats. So Western Ghats and Madhav Gadgil, eminent ecologist who chaired the Western Ghats Ecology Expert Panel WGEEP, which was set up in 2010 and submitted its report in 2011. It recommended that entire Western Ghats should be declared as ecologically sensitive. But the report was not accepted by government because the state governments where Western Ghats are located, they were not keen because that will hurt their revenues, right? So this report was not accepted. After that, another panel was set up, which is the K. Kasturirangan panel. It is known as the High Level Working Group, and it was set up in 2012. And its recommendation was that the Madhav Gadgil panel or WGEEP said that entire Western Ghats should be declared as eco-sensitive zone, whereas the K. Kasturirangan panel said 37% of total area of Western Ghats should be declared eco-sensitive area, and the maximum eco-sensitive area lies in Karnataka, followed by Maharashtra, right? So now let's look at Western Ghats. And before this, we can also look at what is an eco-sensitive area or zone. So eco-sensitive area or zone is notified by Ministry of Environment and Forest and Climate Change under EPA, Environment Protection Act of 1986. So this is very significant, can be asked in exam. So we should know. Eco-sensitive zone is notified by MOEFCC, which is Ministry of Environment and Forest and Climate Change under Environment Protection Act of 1986. Now, as per the National Wildlife Action Plan 2002-2016 issued by Ministry of Environment and Forest and Climate Change, land within 10 kilometers of the boundaries of national parks and wildlife sanctuaries is to be notified as eco-fragile zone or eco-sensitive zone. Areas beyond 10 km can also be notified by union government or by union government as eco-sensitive zone if they hold larger ecologically important sensitive corridors. So 10 kilometers of the boundaries of national parks, land within 10 kilometers of the boundaries of national park and wildlife sanctuaries has to be declared as an eco-sensitive zone. eco-sensitive zone, and beyond this can also be declared by the union government if it is ecologically important, right. So, that we should know, and it is notification is done by the Ministry of Environment and Forest and Climate Change under EPA 1986, right. So, this is about the eco-sensitive zone. Now, let us look at Western Ghats, right, Western Ghats. So, Western Ghats again very important area from exam point of view. So, let us look at some important facts about Western Ghats. So, Western Ghats, first of all we should know that it is falling in which states of India. So, Western Ghats are in Gujarat, Maharashtra, Goa, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu and Kerala. So, Gujarat, Maharashtra, Goa, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, 6 states, right. So, these 6 states we should remember: Gujarat, Maharashtra, Goa, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu and Kerala. Then it has been declared as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, UNESCO World Heritage Site in the year 2012. It is also one of the 8 hottest hotspots of biological diversity. So, Western Ghats is one of the 8 hottest hotspots of biological diversity in the world. Then Western Ghats are also having regional names. So, they are known as Sahyadri in Maharashtra, Nilgiri Hills in Karnataka and Tamil Nadu, Annamalai and Cardamom in Tamil Nadu and Kerala, right. So, they also are known by their specific regional names. Now, Western Ghats, the highest peak of Western Ghats is Anaimudi, right. So, this also we should know, the highest peak is Anaimudi. Aravali's we had seen, the highest peak is Guru Shikhar in Mount Abu. Now, Western Ghats is also known for certain passes. So, the Palghat Gap, which is between Kerala and Tamil Nadu, like it is very prominent. Then Thalghat and Bhorghat, they are in Maharashtra. So, Palghat between Kerala and Tamil Nadu, and Bhorghat and Thalghat, they are in Maharashtra. Now, Western Ghats accounts for 6% of India's land area. They account for 6% of India's land area, and the 6 number is also important because it is the total number of states in which Western Ghats is located. Now, Western Ghats act as a natural barrier for the western branch of southwest monsoon. So, this is also important, and it acts as a water tower of peninsular India, right. So, rivers originate from here. So, which are the important prominent rivers which originate from Western Ghats? So, Kaveri, Krishna, Godavari, Periyar and Netravati. So, these are some very important rivers which are originating from Western Ghats: Kaveri, Krishna, Godavari, Periyar and Netravati. Then some endemic species. Endemic means species which are only found in Western Ghats. So, some endemic species are also found here, which are lion-tailed macaque, it is a type of monkey; Nilgiri Thar, which is a type of mountain goat. Now, this Nilgiri Thar, it is state animal of Tamil Nadu, right. So, this also we should know, and the IUCN status of the Nilgiri Thar is endangered, right. So, it is spelled as Nilgiri Thar. It is the state animal of Tamil Nadu. It's mountain goat, right, Nilgiri Thar, and the IUCN status is endangered. Right, next we move to Kerala, and Kerala has been in news and this is something which can be asked by UPSC, very significant, and this is that Kerala has become the first state in India to declare a state microbe, right. So far we have been aware about state bird, state animal, etc., but Kerala has become the first state to have a state microbe, right, and or state bacteria. So, the state microbe is Bacillus subtilis, and it is a rod shaped non-pathogenic bacterium found in soil and the human gut, right. So, it is found in soil also and in the human gut as well, and it has been chosen for its probiotic benefits, role in agriculture and potential to boost biotechnology research. So, Kerala has become the first state to declare a state microbe, and the name of the state microbe is Bacillus subtilis, which is found in soil and also in human gut. Now, Kerala also has a state bird which is hornbill. Hornbill is very interesting because it is the state bird of two states. One is Kerala, the southern state, and another state is Arunachal Pradesh, the eastern state, the northeastern state of Arunachal Pradesh. Right. Next, we will look at the UN Convention on Law of the Seas. It is also known as the Constitution of the Ocean, right? And UN clause was adopted in 1982 and it came into force from 1994. There are 170 state parties including India, and it defines the rights and duties of nations regarding activities in the oceans and also addresses issues of sovereignty, etc. Right. And it divides marine areas into 5 main zones: internal waters, which on which the sovereignty of the country is there, then territorial sea, here also the sovereignty of the country is there, up to 12 nautical miles. Then there is the contiguous zone, which is another 12 nautical miles from the territorial sea. Then the EEZ, exclusive economic zone, it extends up to 200 nautical miles from the coastline of the state, and beyond the EEZ is the high seas, right. So beyond 200 nautical miles is the high seas, where it is international waters. All countries have equal rights and responsibilities. 1 nautical miles is 1.85 kilometers, and UN clause is also known as Law of the Sea or the Constitution of the Ocean, and it is located, headquarters is in New York. It is under the Division for Ocean Affairs and Law of the Sea, right. There it is. So UN clause is also important, and we should also know about International Seabed Authority. So it has been established under UN clause. Headquarters of International Seabed Authority is in Kingston, Jamaica. Why this was in news? Because India has received a license to explore polymetallic sulfides in an area called as Carlsberg Ridge. So this license has been provided by International Seabed Authority. That is why International Seabed Authority was in news. So International Seabed Authority has been established under UN clause. That is why we saw UN clause also. Headquarters is Kingston, Jamaica, and the main purpose is to regulate mining and related activities in the international seabed beyond national jurisdiction. It has 169 members, and the international seabed area covers 54% of the total area of world's oceans, right. Now let's look at the Carlsberg Ridge. So we should also know the location of Carlsberg Ridge. So it is located, you can say, in the Arabian Sea area, right, Arabian Sea. So northwestern Indian Ocean. Now India has secured the International Seabed Authority license to explore polymetallic sulfides in Indian Ocean. The exact place is Carlsberg Ridge, which is northwest Indian Ocean, right, northwest Indian Ocean. So Carlsberg Ridge we should remember, and this license has been granted to India in September 2025. Now these polymetallic sulfides are rich in manganese, right. These nodes are rich in manganese, cobalt, nickel and copper, minerals critical for batteries, renewable energy, infrastructure and high-tech manufacturing. Now the first license globally for such exploration in Carlsberg Ridge has been given to India, right. So it is the first such license for exploration in the Carlsberg Ridge which India has got. Now earlier India had secured exploratory rights in the central Indian Ocean basin in 2002 for polymetallic nodules, and in 2016 for polymetallic sulfides along Indian Ocean Ridge. So this is the third license for India and the first one for Carlsberg Ridge. Now let us also know a basic difference between polymetallic sulfides and polymetallic nodules. So polymetallic sulfides, so Carlsberg Ridge license is for polymetallic sulfides, right. So this also we should remember, Carlsberg Ridge in the northwest Indian Ocean. So polymetallic sulfides are massive metal rich mounds formed rapidly near hydrothermal vents along mid-ocean ridges, and they are high in copper, iron, zinc, lead, gold and silver, right, and these are massive metal rich mounds, okay. Whereas polymetallic nodules, these are manganese rich lumps found in deep sea and formed over millions of years, and they are high in manganese, iron, nickel, copper and cobalt, right. manganese, iron, nickel, copper and cobalt, whereas the polymetallic sulfides are much bigger in size, whereas these are smaller in size relatively. So, this difference also we should know. Next, very important is biodiversity beyond national jurisdiction, because this treaty has come into force from January 2026. So, it can be asked in UPSC. So, from 17th January 2026, BBNJ, biodiversity beyond national jurisdiction, has come into force. Now, what is this biodiversity beyond national jurisdiction? It is also known as the High Seas Treaty, and it became legally binding UN treaty adopted in 2023, and it has come into force in 2026. So, in 2023 it was adopted, and 2026 it has come into force. It has become the third implementing agreement to UN clause, United Nations Convention on Law of the Sea, in addition to 1994 Part 11 Implementation Agreement and 1995 UN Fish Stocks Agreement, right. So, just the name we should remember. Then India has signed the agreement, but it is yet to ratify. What is the difference between signing and ratification? Signing an agreement or treaty means that we are interested in joining it, but when we ratify it, that means our parliament will approve it. That means now we are committed to the treaty. So, signing means showing interest, ratifying means committing to it, right. So, India has shown interest in joining it. It is yet to ratify it, right. And basic aim of biodiversity beyond national jurisdiction treaty is to ensure conservation and sustainable use of marine biological diversity of areas beyond national jurisdiction. That is the aim behind BBNJ, right. So, very important from prelims point of view. Now, BBNJ, it addresses four main issues. What are these four main issues? So, marine genetic resources, measures such as area based management tools including marine protected areas, environmental impact assessments, and capacity building and transfer of marine technology. It supports SDG 14, right. So, this is also significant. SDG 14 we should know, which deals with life below water. SDG 14 is life below water. And BBNJ establishes a funding mechanism and creates key institutional structures including a conference of parties, subsidiary bodies, a clearinghouse mechanism and secretariat, right. So, all of this is created by this treaty. And what is high seas? High seas is the area beyond EEZ, and EEZ extends from coastline up to 200 nautical miles. And high seas constitute 64% of the ocean and 50% of the earth's surface, more than 90% of earth's living space by volume. That is high seas. So, very important, right. We can get statements based on this understanding. So, we should be clear about this. Next, the BBNJ also tries to address the triple planetary crisis. So, we should be aware of this term also, triple planetary crisis, when this term is used. So, triple planetary crisis refers to crisis of climate change, crisis of biodiversity loss and crisis of pollution, right. So, this is the triple planetary crisis: climate change, biodiversity loss and pollution. Right. Next we come to very important topic, which is cold desert biosphere reserve. It has been included in the UN World Network of Biosphere Reserves. So, that is why it was in news. So, let us look at biosphere reserves in general, and then we will look at the cold desert biosphere reserve in Himachal Pradesh. So, biosphere reserves, this is a designation given by UNESCO, right. So, it is a designation given by UNESCO, and it tries to balance economic and social development with preservation of nature. Man and Biosphere Reserve program of UNESCO was launched in 1971. This is the same year as the Ramsar Convention was signed. So, we can relate it and remember it. Man and Biosphere Reserve program of UNESCO was launched in 1971. Right. The Cold Desert Biosphere Reserve in Himachal Pradesh, CDBR, Cold Desert Biosphere Reserve in Himachal Pradesh, along with 25 other biosphere reserves across several countries, were included in World Network of Biosphere Reserves by UNESCO in 2025. That is last year. So, in India, we have 18 biosphere reserves, out of which 13 are part of the UNESCO's Man and Biosphere Reserve program, right. So, 13 are recognized by UNESCO. We have altogether 18 reserves, biosphere reserves, right. There was another very interesting thing, that is, there is one country, Sao Tome and Principe, right. It's an island country in Western Africa. So, Sao Tome and Principe, they have become the first state to have their entire territory designated as a biosphere reserve, right. So, it's one country, its name is Sao Tome and Principe, and its entire territory has been designated as biosphere reserve by UNESCO. So, it's very, very important and can be asked in exam. Let me also show you the location of Sao Tome and Principe, right. So, it is this small country, small island country, and equator is also passing through it, right, Sao Tome and Principe. So, it is located here, and entire country has been designated as entire territory has been designated as biosphere reserve, right. Now, in this map you can see the 18 biosphere reserves of India, out of which 13 are designated by UNESCO. 5 are not designated by UNESCO, right. So, it is easier to remember the 5 which are not designated as by UNESCO so far. So, biosphere reserves not part of UNESCO's world network of biosphere reserves so far in India are: one is the Dihang Dibang in Arunachal Pradesh, second is Dibru Saikhowa in Assam, third is Manas again in Assam. So, 3 are in northeast, then fourth is Sheshalam in Andhra Pradesh, and fifth one is Kutch in Gujarat, right. So, Sheshalam in Andhra Pradesh, Kutch in Gujarat, then Dibru Saikhowa and Manas in Assam, and Dehang Dibang in Arunachal Pradesh, right. These are the 5 biosphere reserves in India which are not yet recognized by UNESCO. Total we have 18, out of 18, 13 recognized by UNESCO. Right. Next, let us look at this cold desert biosphere reserve which has been recently included. So, this cold desert biosphere reserve, the important places inside this biosphere reserve are Pin Valley National Park, Kibber Wildlife Sanctuary, Chandratal Wetland, right. So, maybe these places can also be asked in matching question. So, we should be aware of that. Now, this cold desert biosphere reserve was declared a biosphere reserve by India in 2009, becoming India's 16th and the first high altitude cold desert biosphere reserve, right. Now, the latest one, India has 18 biosphere reserves. So, the latest one, 18th was Panna Biosphere Reserve in Madhya Pradesh, and it was designated in 2011, whereas Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve was the first one designated in 1986. So, Nilgiri was the first one 1986, and Panna is the latest 18th, and Cold Desert Biosphere Reserve was the 16th declared in 2009, right. Then one item which is also found in the Cold Desert Biosphere Reserve is sea buckthorn. So, sea buckthorn has been in news. It is known as a wonder plant or a superfood, and also as Ladakh gold, sea buckthorn. It is an orange colored berry, and it is used for medicinal, nutritional and ecological purposes. It is high in antioxidants and vitamins. So, it is a superfood, sea buckthorn. So, remember this, and it is found in European coastal areas and also in the high altitude cold desert areas, right, in Ladakh, etc. Then what about the World Network of Biosphere Reserve? It operates under UNESCO, UNESCO's Man and Biosphere program. It now includes 744 or 785 sites across 142 countries. Now, a biosphere reserve in India, we have a biosphere reserve scheme in 1986 guided by UNESCO's Man and Biosphere program. So, biosphere reserves are having 3 zones. One is the core area, then we have the buffer zone, and we have the transition area. So, in core area, any human activity is strictly prohibited. These are national parks, wildlife sanctuaries, etc. In the buffer zone, we can have research, monitoring, training and education programs. In the transition area, there can be socio-cultural and ecologically sustainable economic and human activities. It is allowed in the transition area. Right. Then India ranks 9th globally in forest area and 3rd in annual forest gain as per the FAO report in 2025. Then International Day for Biosphere Reserve is 3rd November, declared by UNESCO. And biosphere reserves include terrestrial, marine and coastal ecosystems. More than 26 crore people live in biosphere reserves across the world. So these are some facts which will be handy for exam. Now let's look at this term which was in news, carbon capture and utilization. So carbon capture and utilization, it is an emerging climate mitigation technology which captures industrial carbon dioxide emissions or directly carbon dioxide emissions or directly from air and converts them into useful products such as fuels, chemicals and building materials, etc. So this carbon capture and storage, it permanently stores carbon dioxide underground. So we need to understand the difference between carbon capture and utilization and the carbon capture and storage. These are two different things, right? So it permanently stores carbon dioxide underground, that is carbon capture and storage. Carbon capture and utilization is we are capturing the carbon dioxide and converting it into useful products such as fuels, chemicals and building materials. Then this term was also in news and can be asked, urban heat island effect. All of us are familiar with this kind of effect. We see that the city centers are having higher temperature as compared to the the peripheral areas, right? So why this is happening? The metropolitan areas are having significantly higher temperature than surrounding rural areas due to human activities, dense infrastructure and lack of vegetation, right? So similarly, there is an effect which is known as urban canyon effect, and this basically refers to the tall densely packed buildings trapping heat and pollutants while restricting airflow, right? So that is known as urban canyon effect. That is also seen in cities where skyscrapers are there, tall buildings. Then turtle trails was in news. It has been announced in the budget this year. So to promote regulated ecotourism along key turtle nesting sites in Odisha, Karnataka and Kerala. And a famous turtle is olive ridley. It belongs to the reptilian class, right? Olive ridley turtles, they are very popular. Okay. Now UNEA was also in news. Again, it's an area from where a question can be likely, because UNEA Assembly, United Nations Environment Assembly, it has in its 7th meeting, it has accepted a resolution which was moved by India. So that is why it is very important, and the resolution was on wildfire management. So UNEA, it stands for United Nations Environment Assembly. It is the topmost decision making body of United Nations Environment Program, which is headquartered in Nairobi, Kenya. So UNEA, which is United Nations Environment Assembly, it convenes every 2 years. That means biennially it meets once in 2 years. And UNEA 7th, that means the 7th meeting, adopted India's wildfire management resolution, during the 7th session of UNEA at Nairobi, Kenya. And the title of that resolution was Strengthening Global Management of Wildfires, and it was moved by India. That is why it is very important and significant, right? UNEA was established in 2012 following the UN Conference on Sustainable Development, which was Rio plus 20, that means 20 years after Rio, held in Brazil, right? So all of these things are very important and we should remember it. right? Then these terms are also important, we should know. Bioremediation, bioaccumulation and biomagnification. So what is bioremediation? When we use microorganisms such as bacteria, fungi, plants, etc. to neutralize or degrade contaminants like oil spills, heavy metals, etc., that is known as bioremediation. What is biomagnification? It is the progressive increase in concentration of non-biodegradable toxins at successive trophic levels in a food chain. It affects the top predators most severely, right? So, in the trophic levels, biomagnification means the toxicants are highest at the highest trophic level. Then third term is bioaccumulation. It is the gradual buildup of persistent fat soluble chemical pollutants like DDT, mercury, etc. within an individual organism's tissues over time. So, it is within an individual's organism's tissues, whereas biomagnification is at the trophic level. Next, let's look at cold wave. So, it refers to rapid fall in temperature within 24 hours to a level requiring substantially increased protection to agriculture, industry, commerce and social activities. For plains, when minimum temperature is 10 degrees Celsius or below and is 4.5 degrees Celsius less than normal for 2 consecutive days, then a cold wave is declared, right. A severe cold day for plains is when temperature falls below 6.5 degrees Celsius below normal, falls 6.5 degrees Celsius below normal. There is also something called the wind chill factor. It is a measure of the cooling effect of the wind on temperature of the air, that is wind chill factor. Next, look at IMD. IMD again, it is in 2025 it celebrated 150 years of its existence, right. So again, very important, IMD. So IMD was established in 1875. It stands for India Meteorological Department. It does the weather forecasting, etc. And it comes under Ministry of Earth Sciences. It is the principal agency responsible for meteorological observations, weather forecasting and seismology. Meteorological observations, weather forecasting and seismology. Right. Then some other institutions and individuals are also celebrating their 100 years or 150 years. We should remember them. So, Vande Mataram 150 years, right. So, I will discuss it in this class only. Then Arya Samaj, also formed in 1875. So, it is also celebrating 150 years. Sardar Patel was born in 1875, 150th anniversary. Birsa Munda ji, 1875, 150th anniversary. Then Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji, 100 years in 2024. UPSC 100 years, 2026. Bhupen Hazarika ji from Assam, 100 years in 2026, right. Kakori conspiracy case, 1925, 100 years. So, these are very significant events, individuals, organizations, etc., which are celebrating their 150 years or 100 years. So, very important from exam point of view. So, this mission Mausam, it was launched to mark the 100 years of 150 years of IMD, right. So, what is mission Mausam? It is a 2-year initiative launched by Ministry of Earth Sciences, and it aims to make India weather ready and climate smart. So, India has to be weather ready and climate smart by 2026 through the use of advanced radars, satellites and AI, which will strengthen agriculture and disaster management through accurate weather forecasting. That is mission Mausam. Right. Then glacial lakes were also in news. So, this term glacial lake outburst flood. So, glacial lakes are water bodies formed by melting of glaciers. And what is GLOF, glacial lake outburst flood? So, it occurs when the natural dam of a glacial lake is breached, releasing massive volumes of water suddenly, right. So, that leads to this flooding because of the breach in the glacial lakes, that is known as GLOF. Then some glaciers were in news. The Yala glacier in Nepal has become extinct. Similarly, Humboldt glacier in Venezuela in the Andes mountains, it has also become extinct, right. So, Venezuela has become the first country in South America to lose all its glaciers. Now, the World Glacier Day is celebrated on 21st of March to highlight the issue of glacier preservation. right? Then we come to this term bioplastics. So bioplastics, these are plastics derived from renewable organic sources like corn, sugarcane, starch. Unlike petroleum based plastics, normally plastics are made from petroleum products, but bioplastics are made from organic sources, right? So that is why they are known as bioplastics. Now bioplastics may not always be biodegradable or compostable, right? So bioplastic, the bio word is there because they are manufactured using renewable resources, like organic resources, renewable organic resources, but they may not be biodegradable. So that distinction also we should remember. Next is so there is a bioplastics unit being set up by Balrampur Chini Mills in Uttar Pradesh, right? This will be India's first bioplastics factory. Right, then this term was there in news, Wallace line. So what is Wallace line? It is an imaginary boundary separating the distinct faunal regions of Asia and Australia, right? So there is a distinct difference in the species of animals found in Australia and in rest of Asia. So that line, imaginary line which separates these species of animals, that is known as Wallace line. There is stark species difference on either side of this Wallace line. Then we come to heat waves. So what are heat waves? So they are basically experienced during March and June. Peak month is May, which is at present we are facing. So heat waves are period of unusually high temperature relative to normal climate of a region. Now it is not officially classified as a natural disaster under the Disaster Management Act of 2005, right? So it is not classified as a natural disaster. Now IMD criteria is different for declaring heat waves for hills and plains. In plains it is it has to be more than greater than or equal to 40 degrees Celsius. For hills it is greater than or equal to 30 degrees Celsius. Now other criteria is departure from normal temperature, which is 4.5 to 6.4 degrees Celsius from normal. Then also heat wave is declared. Severe heat wave is declared when the departure from normal is greater than or equal to 6.4 degree Celsius. Then it is severe heat wave. Then we come to cloud burst. So cloud burst is a sudden intense rainstorm which results in more than 10 centimeter of rain in less than an hour over a small area, approximately 10 square kilometer. And cloudbursts, due to their localized nature, they are hard to predict or detect, right? That is why it leads to a lot of damage to lives and property. Now what is landslide? It is the downward movement of rock, soil or debris on a slope due to gravity. 12.6% of India's land area is prone to landslides. So this data also we should remember. Then western disturbances always in news. So these are eastward moving rain bearing wind systems, eastward moving rain bearing wind systems or extratropical weather systems that originate over Mediterranean Sea, Black Sea and Caspian Sea. They are low pressure systems embedded in westerly jet stream. During winter, the jet stream steers these disturbances eastward towards the Indian subcontinent and it normally leads to rainfall, etc. Right, very important is this UN International Year of Rangelands and Pastoralists, right? So this is 2026 declared by UN International Year of Rangelands and Pastoralists. Now what are grasslands? They are open terrestrial ecosystem dominated by grasses with sparse or no tree cover. UNESCO defines them as land with less than 10% tree and shrub cover, while wooded grasslands have 10 to 40% cover. 24% of India's geographical area is covered by grasslands, right? And the largest grassland in India and in Asia is the Banni grasslands in Gujarat. In the Kutch region of Gujarat, right? So grasslands are the largest ecosystem covering about 40.5% of Earth's terrestrial area and they store 15% of the global carbon as well, right? Then we should also remember one thing here, that 2026 is also the International Year of Women Farmer. right. So this is also an important fact that we should remember. International Year of Women Farmer 2026. Now the largest grassland in Asia, Banni grassland, is in Kutch district of Gujarat, and it was in news because Chari Dhand, it became a designated Ramsar site in 2026. Then there was this species of bird in news, white-bellied heron, and this was in news because environmental clearance has been given for a 1200 megawatt Kalai 2 hydroelectric project on Lohit River in Arunachal Pradesh, and it has raised concern over the gaps in EIA, especially regarding the critically endangered white-bellied heron. So this is the critically endangered bird, and 45% of the population of this bird is found in Bhutan, right, and it is dependent on fast flowing eastern Himalayan rivers. So we should know the remember the name of the project, Kalai 2 hydroelectric project in Arunachal Pradesh on Lohit River, and also the name of this bird which is critically endangered, which is white-bellied heron. Right. Now again, very important significant topic from environment, that is this Amazonian stingless bees, right, Amazonian stingless bees. The Satipo municipality in Peru has adopted the declaration of rights for native stingless bees, marking the world's first legal recognition of insect rights and boosting biocultural conservation, right. The name is Tribe Melliponini, and they are native pollinators of Amazon rainforest, and their honey is also called miracle liquid, right. So we should remember the name of the country, Peru, and the name of the bee is Amazonian stingless bees, right. Their rights have been recognized, and it is the first case of recognition of insect rights. Next we come to Axiom 4 mission, again very important. It was in news, and very significant development for India, because Shri Subhanshu Shukla has become the second Indian citizen to travel into space and the first one to go to International Space Station. So Axiom 4 mission, it was a collaboration between ISRO and NASA with SpaceX and Axiom Space, right. Now Subhanshu Shukla ji, he became the first Indian to go to International Space Station and the second Indian to go into space after Rakesh Sharma ji. Rakesh Sharma ji in 1984, he became the first Indian to go to space in the Soyuz T-11 spacecraft of Soviet Union, right. So Axiom 4 mission was launched in June 2025 on a Crew Dragon spacecraft, and the purpose of this Axiom 4 mission is to enable commercial activities like space tourism, etc. in the low Earth orbit, right. And it was a private space flight to International Space Station in collaboration with NASA and SpaceX. It marked India's return to human space flight after 41 years, and it was the same case for 3 other countries, Poland and Hungary, right. So total 3 countries, India, Poland and Hungary, they had this human space flight after 41 years, right. And Rakesh Sharma ji was the first Indian to go into space in 1984 on a Soyuz T-11 spacecraft, and Subhanshu Shukla has become the second Indian to go into space and the first Indian to go to International Space Station. Right. Then we should know about Carbon line. Carbon line is about 100 km from Earth's surface, and it marks the boundary between Earth's atmosphere and outer space. Then what about India's space ports? It can also be asked, because India is developing a second space port. So the first launch pad was Satish Dhawan Space Center in Sriharikota. It is known as SHAR, SHAR. Then the second launch pad was also built in Sriharikota in 2005. Then one private space launch pad has come up, known as ALP-01. It is also known as Dhanush by the Agnikul Cosmos, right. It is also in Sriharikota, whereas India is building the second spaceport, right. So one spaceport we have in Sriharikota, the second spaceport, India is developing at a place called Kulasekrapattinam in Tamil Nadu, and it will be only for the small satellite launch vehicle, right. So, Kulasekrapattinam, we should remember, it's in Tamil Nadu and it is only for small satellite launch vehicles. Right. Next we come to this NISAR, again very important and hot topic for prelims 2026. So, NISAR stands for NASA ISRO Synthetic Aperture Radar, and it is a sophisticated Earth observation satellite, and it is designed to study changes on Earth's surface in fine detail, covering earthquakes, volcanoes, ecosystems, etc. Right. The world's first remote sensing satellite was Sputnik 1, launched in 1957. Now, this NISAR, it is the first major Earth observation mission with a dual band radar. So, this is very important. NISAR is a dual band radar. So, there are radars of two bands, L band and S band, which will allow NISAR to observe changes more precisely than any other satellite. It has all weather observation capability. So, even if it is cloudy, there is smoke, if it is night or there is thick vegetation, even then it can observe, right. So, there are two bands, L band and S band. NASA has developed the L band, whereas ISRO has developed the S band. The L band can penetrate vegetation, right, while observing, and the S band radar prepared by ISRO, it does surface measurement, right. And NISAR has been launched into sun synchronous polar orbit, which is 743 km above the Earth. It is the costliest satellite built so far, costing around $1.2 billion. It is weight is around 2,392 kgs, and it will scan the Earth every 12 days, and it has been launched from Sriharikota. So, all of these are facts which can be asked in exam, right. So, let us know this in detail. So, NISAR is very important. After that, let us look at Nipah virus. So, Nipah virus is a zoonotic disease, and it was in news last year because of some cases in Kerala and also reported from West Bengal. So, it is a zoonotic disease, that is it spreads from animal to human beings, and it is transmissible viral infection with high mortality rate between 45 to 75%. There is no cure at present, and it is transmitted by fruit bats, which act as a natural reservoir of the virus. So, here we should know about the One Health approach, which is that animal health, health of human beings and health of ecosystem, they are interconnected, right. And the World Organization for Animal Health, WOAH, it was formerly known as OIE. It was established in 1924 and the headquarters is in Paris, right. So, this detail also we should know. Next, we move to the prototype fast breeder reactor, so which has recently become critical. So, that is why it was in news. So, it is a fast breeder reactor and a prototype. It has recently achieved criticality, and it was designed to use spent uranium from pressurized heavy water reactors of India as well as to produce more plutonium. Now, achieving criticality means what? So, achieving criticality means that nuclear reaction in the reactor has become safely self-sustaining and is on its way to being able to produce electricity. That is the meaning of criticality, right? Safely self-sustaining. Now, first approved, this project was first approved in 2003, and it is a 500 megawatt sodium cooled pool type fast breeder reactor designed by Indira Gandhi Center for Atomic Research IGCAR and built by Bharatiya Napki Vidyut Nigam Limited Bhavini, right. So, these details are also very important. 500 megawatt sodium cooled pool type FBR designed by IGCAR and built by Bhavini. Then we should know in brief about India's 3-stage nuclear program. So, the architect of India's 3-stage nuclear program is Dr. Homi Jahangir Bhabha, and it aims at ensuring long-term energy security for India using India's limited uranium resources while maximizing the potential of thorium, which is abundant in India. So, the first stage is basically of pressurized heavy water reactors, which we are actually using. The fuel is uranium and moderator is heavy water or deuterium. Second stage will be fast breeder reactors. which will utilize the plutonium-239 from first stage to generate more fissile material than they consume. That is why they are known as breeder reactors. And the fuel will be mixed oxide of plutonium-239 and uranium-238. In the third stage, thorium-based reactors will be there, which will use thorium-232 to produce uranium-233, which is a fissile material. So, this is India's 3-stage nuclear program. So, basic idea we should have. Right. Next, we come to India's first tribal genome project. So, Gujarat, the first state to launch a genome sequencing initiative. It has focused exclusively on tribal communities. The aim is to identify genetic health risk and enabling precision healthcare for tribal populations. Now, what is genome? The entire set of DNA instructions found in a cell is known as genome. And in humans, genome consists of 23 pairs of chromosomes in nucleus as well as a small chromosome in mitochondria. Mitochondria is known as powerhouse of the cell. So, the question can be about where is India's first tribal genome project, or which state has done the India's first tribal genome project. So, it is Gujarat. Right. Next, we come to earthquakes. So, this was in news in context of Google has launched an app which is an Android earthquake alert system which monitors the body waves released during earthquakes. So, earthquakes they release different types of waves, body waves and surface waves. So, surface waves are also known as love and relic wave. They travel along the crust and cause most destruction, right. So, most destruction is caused by the surface waves, love and relic wave. Whereas the body waves, which are known as P waves and S waves. So, P waves are fast moving waves and they can travel through both solids and liquids. S waves are slow moving, they are more destructive and move only through solid, right. So, this distinction also we should know, sometimes it can be asked. Then we come to the HOPE research station in Ladakh, right. So, it stands for Human Outer Planet Exploration, Human Outer Planet Exploration, and it has been launched by Protoplanet, which is a Bangalore based company involved in space science and research, to train space crew by simulating deep space environment. And why it is done in Ladakh? Because Ladakh resembles like how the kind of it is easier to simulate the environment that we may experience in other planets, right, like Mars, etc. Now, we should also remember that there is a valley called Sokar Valley in Ladakh, right, and India's first dark sky reserve, right, which is useful for observing the planetary and celestial bodies, right, that is Hanle Dark Sky Reserve in Ladakh near Changthang Wildlife Sanctuary, right. So, Hanle Observatory also we should know, Hanle Dark Sky Reserve. Then this village was also in news in Gujarat. This is Matanomad village in Gujarat. It is in Kutch district, and it was in news because it has been identified as a potential test bed for India's Mangalyaan 2 mission, because there has been presence of a substance here which is known as jarosite. Jarosite was discovered here in 2016, which suggests a similar geological occurrence on both Earth and Mars millions of years ago, right. So, jarosite is an indicator of presence of water on Mars. So, that is why it is very, very significant. Then astrobiology is a branch of study where we study life, its origins and evolution in planets and stars, that is astrobiology. Right. Then President of Brazil visited India for the AI Impact Summit, right, in February 2026, and the 17th BRICS Summit was hosted by Brazil in 2025 at Rio, right. The population of BRICS countries is now around 50% of global population, and GDP is around 40%, and they also account for 25% of global trade. So, BRICS has become very significant. Now, this BRICS summit was held in July 2025, the 17th summit, One new member was added to BRICS last year, that is Indonesia. The theme was strengthening global South cooperation for more inclusive and sustainable governance. 11 new partner countries were also welcomed by the BRICS grouping. Now, very significant is that the 18th BRICS summit will be hosted by India, and it will be the fourth time that India will be hosting the BRICS summit. So, 18th BRICS summit in 2026 will be hosted by India, and the theme is also decided. The theme is building resilience and innovation for cooperation and sustainability. Building resilience and innovation for cooperation and sustainability. That is the theme. The logo has also been released. The logo is in the shape of lotus and doing namaste, right? That is the logo. Now, India is hosting the BRICS summit for the fourth time. Earlier, it has hosted in 2012 in New Delhi, 2016 in Goa, 2021 it was virtually because COVID-19, 2026 it will be hosted in New Delhi. Right, then we should know about BRICS. So, BRICS was originally, this term was, the term that was coined was BRIC, and this term was coined in 2001 by Jim O'Neill. He was an analyst at Goldman Sachs, to refer to the emerging economies. In 2006, these countries met on the sidelines of UN General Assembly at New York. In 2009, the first official meeting happened at Yekaterinburg, in Russia. That is important. Then in 2010, South Africa joined to make it BRICS from BRIC. And in 2023 summit in Johannesburg, 6 new members were added, right? So, these 6 new members were Argentina, Iran, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Egypt and Ethiopia, out of which Argentina said no. So, it declined because Javier Milei, the new president, said that we will not join BRICS. So, Argentina declined to join, Iran joined, UAE joined, Ethiopia joined and Egypt joined, but Saudi Arabia has also there is suspense about Saudi Arabia. It has not made it clear whether it wants to join or not. So far, it has not attended any summit. Right. So, this is about the BRICS membership, etc. Next, we should know about PAX Silica. Again, very, very important topic because India has joined this initiative by US led initiative, PAX Silica. So, it is a US led initiative and it aims to secure supply chains for artificial intelligence, semiconductors and critical minerals among partner countries. The inaugural summit of PAX Silica happened in Washington DC. That time India was not a member. India has joined in February 2026 during AI Impact Summit at New Delhi. Right. The other members of PAX Silica are India, US, Japan, South Korea, Australia, Singapore, UAE, Israel, UK, Netherlands, Qatar and Greece. And the meaning of this word PAX is peace. So, it means peace in Latin. Next, we come to very, very important topic, right? And this is really important because this is about the AI Impact Summit, which was hosted by India in February 2026. So, very high chances that a question around AI Impact Summit might be asked by UPSC in Prelims 2026. Sometimes they also tend to throw a googly by not asking from very obvious things, but still we should be prepared. So, AI Impact Summit 2026, this was hosted by Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology at Bharat Mandapam, and the basic idea was that we have to move from AI safety to AI for development, right. So, that was India's idea behind this summit. From AI safety we have to move towards AI for development. So, the theme was Sarv Jan Hitai, Sarv Jan Sukhai. Very, very important. The theme can be asked directly. Sarv Jan Hitai, Sarv Jan Sukhai. That means welfare for all, happiness for all. The first global AI summit hosted in Global South. This was the first AI global summit hosted in Global South. Now, 3 sutras of AI Impact Summit. So, what are these 3 sutras? So, or guiding principles: people, planet and progress. People, focus on human welfare; planet, highlights environmental responsibility; progress, aims at inclusive development. So, 3 sutras you should remember: planet, people and progress. People, planet and progress, right, in this sequence. Then 7 chakras were also there. Seven chakras are the key areas of international cooperation in AI. So, these included human capital, science, resilience, innovation, efficiency, inclusion for social empowerment, democratizing AI resources, economic growth and social good, and safe and trusted AI. Right. So, these are the 7 chakras, 3 sutras and 7 chakras. And we can remember it like your friend whose name is Ridesh, right? Ridesh, you can remember it like Ridesh. So, Ridesh is resilience, innovation, efficiency, inclusion for social empowerment, D for democratizing AI resources, E is for economic growth and social good, S is for safe and trusted AI, and another S is for science, and H is for human capital. Right. Then we should also know that where are the, like this was the fourth this global AI summit. The earlier 3 have been held in which places, hosted by which countries. So, that also we should know. So, this we can easily remember by this acronym BSP India, BSP India, right. So, B stands for Bletchley Park, London, UK AI Safety Summit in 2023, Seoul, AI Seoul Summit 2024, Seoul, then P is for Paris, France AI Action Summit 2025, and New Delhi, right, which is India. So, Bletchley Park in London, UK, Seoul, Paris, and then India, New Delhi, Bharat Mandapam, BSPI. Next, we come to Venezuela. So, Venezuela was in news in January 2026 because there was an operation by US to kidnap the president of Venezuela. So, US did Operation Absolute Resolve. So, name of the operation is important, can be asked in exam. To arrest President Nicolas Maduro, and he was accused by US of narco terrorism. The US claimed that Cartel of the Suns was run by Venezuelan officials, which has flooded US with cocaine and other drugs. Right. US Donald Trump has also been complaining about fentanyl, right. This is another synthetic drug which is causing a lot of fatalities in US. And this fentanyl is synthetic opioid and leading cause of overdose death among Americans. US blames China and India for fentanyl because India and China, they export some pharmaceutical material to China, which is an ingredient in making of fentanyl, right. So, that is why US accuses India and China also, right. But let's come back to Venezuela. So, Operation Absolute Resolve was done by US, and in this context Monroe Doctrine was also in news, right. So, question can be asked about Monroe Doctrine. So, Monroe Doctrine was given in 1823 by US President James Monroe, and it basically said 3 things. First thing was European powers should not establish new colonies in Americas. That means they should keep away from the Americas. Second part was that US will also be not interfere in European wars or internal affairs of European countries, right. So, non-interference from both sides. Then the third was any attempt by external powers to influence Western Hemisphere, that is these South American countries, would be seen as an hostile act by US, right. So, this was the Monroe Doctrine, that this is our area and you should not interfere in this area, right. Now, US asserted its dominance over the Americas or Western Hemisphere. So, this was the Monroe Doctrine, and now Donald Trump is also following this Monroe Doctrine. In fact, it is being said that he is following a doctrine which is Monroe Doctrine. Right. In context of the attack on Venezuela, the UN Charter was also in news, right, because it was seen as a violation of UN Charter. So, we should remember the important articles. So, UN Charter came into force in 1945, and it is basically the constitution of UN. So, it was adopted on 26 June 1945 and came into force on 24th October 1945, right. It was adopted during the San Francisco Conference. Now, this is the foundational treaty of United Nations or the Constitution of United Nations. Now, the capture of Maduro was seen as a violation of Article 2, Clause 4 of UN Charter, which prohibits use of force against the territorial integrity of any state. So, Article 2 Clause 4 of UN Charter, it was said that it has been violated by US action. But US defended its action using Article 51 of the UN Charter, which justifies military response in self-defense. So, US said that because Venezuela has launched a drug war on it, that is why it is responding. So, it is very far-fetched imagination of US, but still might is right in international relations, that is what we can say. So, this is about the UN Charter. We should remember Article 2 Clause 4 and Article 51. Now, Venezuela, some other things also we should see about Venezuela. Now, Venezuela is the world's largest proven oil, has the world's largest proven oil reserves, around 300 billion barrels, right. So, this is a statement which can be asked in question. Which country has the world's largest proven oil reserves? So, it is Venezuela, but its production is less because of sanctions and other issues. And primarily the oil reserves of Venezuela are located in this belt, which is known as Orinoco belt, right. The Venezuela has the highest proven oil reserves in the world. At second number you have Saudi Arabia, third number Iran, fourth Canada, and fifth Iraq, right. Then Venezuela accounts for only 17 to 20% of total global production, right, though it has the world's largest oil reserves, proven oil reserves. And Venezuelan oil is also extra heavy crude oil, having API gravity less than 10%, less than 10 degree, that is denser than water. So, denser than water, extra heavy crude oil. High sulfur in crude oil makes it sour, right. So, sweet and sour crude oil is there. So, sweet means less sulfur, sour means more sulfur in crude oil, right. Then which are the neighboring countries of Venezuela? So, you can remember BCG, which is Brazil, Colombia and Guyana, Brazil, Colombia and Guyana. It is also a vaccine, BCG vaccine, so you can remember like that. Then Guyana Highlands, it is also part of it is in Venezuela, and also in Guyana, Brazil, Suriname and French Guyana, right. So, Guyana Highlands, this can also be asked. Then Angel Falls, it is the world's highest waterfall and it is on Churun River, right. So, this is also important. Now, Venezuela has a long-standing territorial dispute with Guyana over the Essequibo region, which is rich in oil, right. So, about this region, they are having a conflict between Venezuela and Guyana. Then Lake Maracaibo, it is the largest lake in South America, it is also in Venezuela, Maracaibo. Then Pantanal in South America is the largest Ramsar site in the world, that we had seen in the last class, and across Brazil, Bolivia and Paraguay, right, it is across these three countries. Right. Now, US has exited multiple international organizations. So, some of the prominent ones. So, US has exited WHO, UNESCO, International Solar Alliance, UNFCCC, UN Women, UN Population Fund, right. So, here International Solar Alliance is important because this is an organization where India and France are co-founders, right. So, US has joined in 2021 and exited in 2026. Headquarters is in Gurugram, and membership is open to all UN member states now. Earlier it was countries lying between Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn. Then India and France co-founders, and launched on the sidelines of COP21 in 2015, where the Paris Agreement was the outcome. And recently International Solar Alliance is in news because it has a towards 1000 strategy. So, let us see what is this towards 1000 strategy of International Solar Alliance. So, this is a goal they want to achieve, the International Solar Alliance wants to achieve by 2030. It is $1,000 billion of investment to raise $1,000 billion of investment for solar projects. 1,000 million people will be provided energy access using clean energy. 1,000 gigawatt of solar energy capacity to be installed by 2030 and 1,000 million tons of CO2 mitigation annually. So this is $1,000 billion, 1,000 million people, 1,000 gigawatt and 1,000 million tons of CO2, right, mitigation. Then next is again a very significant topic from where question is likely, because Indian government has recently launched this nationwide human papilloma virus, this vaccination program for girls aged 14 years. So this national human papilloma virus vaccination program for girls aged 14 years launched in 2026, and under this free HPV vaccine will be provided to 14-year-old girls, and it aims to eliminate cervical cancer by leveraging schools and public health centers. Cervical cancer is the second most common cause of cancer death among Indian women. Breast cancer is number one cause, and primarily it affects women in the reproductive age group or the productive age group of 30 to 60 years of age, and not reproductive but productive age group of 30 to 60 years. Then India contributes nearly 23% of world's cervical cancer cases. So this is very significant program. Then the indigenous vaccine which will be used in here will be Servavac by Serum Institute of India. Right, and the vaccination in case of HPV infection is most effective if administered before the onset of sexual activity, right. So that is why the government is targeting 14 years girls. Then vaccination program will be tracked by UWIN platform, which ensures a digital record of every girl vaccinated. Now the WHO goal is of 90-70-90, which is 90% vaccination, 70% screening and 90% treatment. So this can also be asked. So all of these things are important, right. Next is this Anthropic cloud model. So Mythos is one of the latest model developed by Anthropic as part of its broader AI system called Claude, right. So Anthropic is the company, Claude is their wider system, and under which they are launching various models, and the latest one is Mythos. And the Mythos is very powerful, and it can actually detect hidden bugs in softwares and programs, right. And that is why the danger is there that in the wrong hands it can be very dangerous. So that is why Anthropic has given 12 tech companies access to Mythos via Project Glasswing. So Project Glasswing, right, it is very important. So Anthropic has given access to Mythos via Project Glasswing to 12 tech companies in an effort to secure the world's most critical softwares. And the companies include Nvidia, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, Apple, etc. Right. So Anthropic's Claude series of large language models are very popular and famous, and very powerful as well. Right. Some AI models, large language models, Microsoft has Copilot, OpenAI has ChatGPT, Google has Gemini, right. So all of these are important. That there was news about indigenously manufactured tetanus and adult diphtheria vaccines. So launched by Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, manufactured at Central Research Institute, Kasoli. And unlike the tetanus toxoid vaccine, which only protects tetanus, the TD vaccine will provide protection against both tetanus and diphtheria. Right. Then there was this news about India's Servum AI, right? India's Servum AI. It has unveiled two models named Vikram at AI Impact Summit 2026, and Vikram is India's first sovereign LLM, right? So what is sovereign LLM? So every country wants that it should have its own large language model. That's a sovereign AI. So Bangalore based startup is there, Servum, and it has been selected by Government of India to develop India's first indigenous LLM under the India AI mission. Then two models have been launched, the 35 billion parameter model and 105 billion parameter model. Both have been named as Vikram. Now Servum is building three variants, Servum large, Servum small and Servum edge. Servum large will be having advanced reasoning capabilities, Servum small will have real-time applications, and Servum edge can be used on devices. Then there were some digital health initiatives launched during AI Impact Summit. Two of them are Sahi and Bodh, right? They have been developed by National Health Authority along with IIT Kanpur, and Sahi stands for Strategy for AI in Healthcare for India. It basically is a national governance framework for responsible adoption of AI in healthcare. Both stands for Benchmarking Open Data Platform for Health AI, and it is designed to evaluate and validate AI solution in healthcare before large scale deployment, right? Now, it has been launched during India AI Impact Summit to promote safe and responsible use of AI in healthcare. Right. Then there was news about semaglutide. Semaglutide has the patent has expired, right? Patent is generally for 20 years. So, what is semaglutide? It is a GLP-1 receptor agonist drug used to treat type 2 diabetes. So, semaglutide is basically a GLP-1 receptor agonist drug used to treat type 2 diabetes and obesity, which mimics GLP-1 hormone. GLP-1 stands for glucagon-like peptide. Glucagon-like peptide to signal satiety. That means stomach is full to the brain, thereby reducing appetite and regulating blood sugar levels. So, that is the function of this GLP-1 receptor agonist drug, semaglutide, and it has come off patent. So, now generic drugs can be made, right, and it is used for treating type 2 diabetes and obesity. So, let us look at what is semaglutide. So, it is a product of Novo Nordisk. Novo Nordisk is the company, and it is available in market in two branded forms: Ozempic for diabetes management and Wegovy for weight loss. Ozempic and Wegovy. Wegovy for weight loss and Ozempic for diabetes management, type 2 diabetes, that is. Now, GLP-1 hormone, it is released from the gut after meals, and it stimulates insulin secretion, slows gastric emptying, and signals satiety to the brain that food is full, stomach is full. That means appetite is controlled. Now, Eli Lilly is another company like Novo Nordisk, and its product for this type 2 diabetes control and weight loss is Monroe, and the chemical is tirzepatide. So, chemicals can be asked, the name of the companies can be asked, their products can be asked. So, Ozempic, you need to remember Ozempic, Wegovy, they are the products of Novo Nordisk, and then you have Eli Lilly, whose product is Monroe. Right, now a little bit about diabetes. So, diabetes is a NCD, which is non-communicable disease. It is a lifestyle disease, and what happens in diabetes? Pancreas stop producing insulin, or the body cannot use insulin properly. Insulin is a hormone that controls blood sugar. When insulin does not work properly, blood sugar rises, causing hyperglycemia. Now, too much insulin leads to low blood sugar, that is hypoglycemia, right. Then types of diabetes. So, type 1, type 2 and gestational diabetes. Gestational diabetes happens to women during pregnancy, right, and it normally gets better as the pregnancy gets over, it also gets over. Now, what is type 1 and type 2? So, type 1 is an autoimmune destruction of insulin producing cells. It is seen more often in children and young adults, right. So, that is type 1, autoimmune destruction of insulin producing cells. Type 2 is body resisting insulin or does not produce enough insulin, and it is linked to obesity, inactivity and genetics, and accounts for 95% of diabetes cases. So, type 2 is that much more common. That is why companies are also producing medicines for type 2 diabetes, right, like Ozempic and Monroe. Now, let us also look at a new type of diabetes, which is type 5 diabetes. It is a newly recognized form of diabetes affecting lean teens. Lean teens means teens who are very slim, right, and generally diabetes is associated with people who are obese. So, it is a newly recognized form affecting lean teens and young adults with a BMI less than 18.5. Now, type 1 is autoimmune, type 2 is insulin resistance, and type 5 is caused by malnutrition, damaging pancreatic beta cells, leading to insulin deficiency. So, this distinction we should remember. Then there is another type of diabetes, which is diabetes mellitus and diabetes insipidus. So, diabetes mellitus, in this case there is sweet urine, and insipidus there is tasteless urine. So, in mellitus, pancreas produce little or no insulin, type 1, or body resists insulin, that is type 2, and there is hyperglycemia because of this. Whereas in case of insipidus diabetes, kidney is unable to concentrate urine due to ADH, antidiuretic hormone, ADH deficiency, which is antidiuretic hormone deficiency or resistance. So, this is the difference between diabetes insipidus and diabetes mellitus. So, these are general science topics, sometimes they can be asked. We have discussed it because Ozempic, then Monroe and Semaglutide were in news. Right. Next is biofortification. So, process of increasing the nutritional density of staple crops through conventional breeding, biotechnology or agronomic practices, enhancing nutrition at the plant growth stage, that is biofortification. So, when we are increasing the nutrition density during the plant growth stage, then it is known as biofortification. So, it was in news in context of biofortified potatoes, which will have added iron content, and it will be available in Indian markets. Now, the Central Potato Research Institute is in Shimla in India, and the International Potato Center is in Peru, right. So, potato is originally from South America, right, and it was brought to India by the Portuguese. Then stable coin was in news. So, unlike Bitcoin, they are linked to an actual asset, usually US dollars. Volatility is relatively low, and it is a type of cryptocurrency based on blockchain, can be privately issued and therefore different from central bank digital currencies, which are officially issued and controlled by central bank of countries. Right. Starlink is a satellite based internet service by SpaceX through constellation of satellites in low Earth orbit. Bhutan has become the first country in South Asia to allow Starlinks, followed by Bangladesh and Sri Lanka. And Starlink is a product of SpaceX, which is a company of Elon Musk. Now, there was Point Nemo also in news. Point Nemo is in South Pacific Ocean. It is the also known as spacecraft graveyard. It is the most isolated spot on Earth, and it is known as a oceanic pole of inaccessibility, and in Latin Nemo means no one, right, and it is so remote that the nearest human being to Point Nemo is a person on International Space Station. So, that is how remote Point Nemo is. Right. Then Assam has become the first Indian state to issue a tender for dedicated Earth observation satellite constellations known as AssamSat, and it will be for disaster response, border security and regional development use, right. Now, so Assam has become the first Indian state to issue a tender for dedicated Earth observation satellite. That is what we need to remember here, right. Then some drones were also in news, like for example the MQ-9 Reaper drone, that is a US product, and the Bayraktar Turkish drones and the Kamikaze drones, right, they were also in news. So, they are of Turkish origin, right. Then brain eating amoeba was also in news. There were some cases reported from Kozhikode in Kerala, and it causes basically this primary amoebic meningoencephalitis, and the first case of PAM was reported in India in 1971. It has a very high fatality rate, 97% globally, and Kerala has brought it down to 25%. So, that shows about the healthcare standards in Kerala. Now, primary amoebic meningoencephalitis is caused by Naegleria fowleri. So, this name you should remember. This is the brain-eating amoeba, Naegleria fowleri. It is found in warm fresh water and soil, and it generally enters the body through nose. Right. Then Vikram 3201 was also in news. It is first made in India chip, first made in India microchip, and it is used in the launch vehicle of ISRO, right. So, it is a launch vehicle grade microprocessor, Vikram 3201. It's a special purpose microprocessor, and it is based on 180 nanometer technology, extreme temperature tolerance 55 degrees Celsius to 125 degrees Celsius, low power consumption, less than a mobile charger, and ISRO's VSSC designed it, and the semiconductor lab at Chandigarh manufactured it, right. So, Vikram 3201, India's first indigenous microprocessor. Then APK was also in news. So, this is the Android package kit scam, and it is the fastest growing cybercrime threat in India. It is used to install apps, but can be exploited to spread malware by fraudsters. So, APK, Android package kit scams, APK scams. It's a cyber scam. Then digital arrest has been in news so much. So, it's again a cyber crime, and right, fraudsters impersonate law enforcement agencies to extort money by creating fear and urgency. In this, what is seen is pig butchering type of scam, where they initially try to win your confidence, and once they get your confidence, then they ask for money, right. So, that is how the pigs are killed. So, initially they are fed, and once they become fat, they are killed for meat. Right. Then digital tradecraft was also in news in context of the Delhi blast, and how the terrorists made use of technology, right. So, they used things like used draft emails. They did not send the emails, but just modified the drafts, and the next person used to log in and read the draft and make changes. So, that is known as dead drop emails. Then deepfakes were used, encrypted apps, spoofed numbers, etc. KK Park in Myanmar is infamous for cyber crimes, right? These kind of digital arrests, etc. Then some apps which were in news, for these apps are used for communication. Threema is a Swedish app. This was used by the terrorist in the Delhi blast case. Signal is an app again used for communication, very popular in US. Then Discord. This app was in news in context of the Nepal Gen Z revolution, right? So, Discord. It is used by the gamers mainly. Right. Then there is a substance called phosphine. It is a biomarker, right? It has been discovered in the atmosphere of Venus, and it shows the possibility of presence of life forms on Venus. Venus is the closest neighbor of Earth, and it is also known as Earth's twin, and there are no moons and no rains around Venus, right? Then agentic AI, right? Agentic AI. So, this term also we should know, because AI has been in so much in news. So, agentic AI payments will enable users to complete transactions without leaving the AI platform. So, recently NPCI, the National Payment Corporation of India, and Razorpay, they collaborated with OpenAI to introduce AI driven payments on ChatGPT, right. The CEO of OpenAI is Sam Altman, right. So, agentic AI refers to AI models that require minimal intervention to complete tasks, right. They are autonomous almost. So, they are autonomous systems that act independently. So, agentic AI is almost independently acting, right. So, unlike traditional generative AI that only creates content, agentic AI uses reasoning, planning, and tool utilization to execute complex operations. So, generative AI is translate data into knowledge. Agentic AI turns knowledge into action. So, that is basically the difference between generative AI and agentic AI. Next, Mathri 2 station was also in news. So government has approved India's newest research station to come up in Eastern Antarctica by 2029. It will become India's fourth research base on the frozen continent. Right, the earlier three being Dakshin Gangotri, Maitri in 1989, Bharati in 2012, and Maitri 2 will be the fourth one in 2029. Now these come under NCPOR, the National Center for Polar and Ocean Research, which is Goa based, and it works under the Ministry of Earth Sciences. We also have a polar research station in North Pole, which is Himadri, and it is in the Arctic, and it is in Svalbard area of Norway, right? Svalbard, Himadri. So Dakshin Gangotri, Maitri, Bharati. Now Maitri 2 is coming up, and Himadri is already there in Arctic, Svalbard region. Then India's 4G stack. So fully indigenous telecom solution developed by CDOT, Tejas and TCS to run BSNL network. Both telecom hardware and software are included in that. CDOT stands for Center for Development of Telematics, established in 1984. Then GPS spoofing, this term was also in news. So GPS spoofing basically is a type of cyber attack in which false GPS signals are transmitted to mislead the navigation systems. And US has GPS, right? The Global Positioning System, GLONASS of Russia, Baidu of China, Galileo of Europe, QZSS of Japan, and NavIC of India, right? So these also we should know. Then atomic clocks were also in news because some of the satellites in NavIC system, their atomic clocks have failed. So that is why it was in news. So atomic clocks are most precise timekeeping devices using resonant frequencies of atoms, usually cesium-133 or rubidium, to measure time, and they lose just 1 second in over 100 million years, and they are used in navigation systems, right? That is the utility of this atomic clocks. Now next is about Indian Science Congress. This was established in 1914. Recently, last year it has been replaced by ESTIC. ESTIC stands for Emerging Science, Technology and Innovation Conclave. The first edition was held in November 2025. Right, then Glass report of WHO was also in news. Glass report of WHO. So it is Global Antibiotic Resistance Surveillance Report 2025, and it deals with antimicrobial resistance in India, and the report says that AMR in India is a serious and escalating threat, increasing threat, and colistin is an antibiotic which the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare banned for use in food producing animals, poultry, aqua farming and animals feed in 2019, right? So antimicrobial resistance is becoming a major threat in India. So one antibiotic which was banned in 2019 is colistin. Then there was news about cough syrup deaths in India, in Madhya Pradesh. So the toxin substance which was found in these cough syrups, which made them poisonous, was diethylene glycol and ethylene glycol, right? It is a poisonous industrial solvent, and the name of the company was Coldreff. Now in this context, good manufacturing practices was in news, and this comes under Schedule M. There are also Schedule H drugs which is related to AMR, antimicrobial resistance, right? Because of self-medication, the antimicrobial resistance AMR is increasing. So in that context, we should know Schedule H drugs. These are prescription medications. They cannot be purchased over the counter without doctor's prescription, right? And Schedule H drugs is mentioned under the Drugs and Cosmetic Rules 1945. Right, and the organization which regulates the drugs etc. is CDSCO. It is the Central Drug Standards Control Organization. It is India's central drug regulatory authority responsible for drug approval, clinical trials and standards enforcement, right? And it works under the Drugs and Cosmetics Act 1940. It is headed by Drug Controller General of India, DCGI. So this is about the CDSCO, right? So we have seen a lot of topics. Some more topics are remaining which we will cover, right? So there is the 150th birth anniversary of Birsa Munda ji. So some important things you should know. He was born in Ulihatu on 15th November 1875, which is now in Jharkhand's Khunti district, right? He became known as Bhagwan or God by his followers and founded the Bir Sahib sect. He is lovingly called Dharti Abba, father of the earth, by his followers. He gave the call for Ulgulan rebellion and urged tribals to stop paying rent. Birsa Munda ji died of cholera in 1900, marking the end of the active phase of the revolt. Since 2021, 15th November is celebrated as Janjatiya Gaurav Divas. Right, so these are important facts about Birsa Munda ji we should know. Next is about Chandigarh achieving 99.93% literacy. Right, Chandigarh becoming the second UT to become fully literate under the Ullas scheme. So what is important is Ullas scheme. Ullas stands for Understanding Lifelong Learning for All in the Society. It has helped the city surpass 95% literacy benchmark under the NEP 2020. Now Chandigarh attained 99.93% literacy rate and it has become the second fully literate UT after Ladakh. So Ladakh was the first UT and Chandigarh has become the second union territory. The first state, overall Chandigarh is the sixth state or UT to achieve this feat. First one was Mizoram. Mizoram is the first state, followed by Goa, Tripura and Himachal Pradesh among states, and Ladakh is the first UT and Chandigarh is the second UT. Now what is Ullas? Ullas is a centrally sponsored scheme. That means the funding is shared between center and state, right? So Ullas is a centrally sponsored scheme and it empowers individuals aged 15 and above with literacy, numeracy, life skills and vocational training. It aims to mainstream non-literate adults into society in line with NEP 2020 from 2022 to 2027. That is about Ullas. So very important scheme and we should can expect a question on this. Then we come to Vande Mataram. Vande Mataram, again 150 years are being celebrated. So it is the 150th anniversary year of Vande Mataram, celebrated on November 7, 2025. Vande Mataram was composed by Sri Bankim Chandra Chatterjee in 1875 and first time it was published in the literary journal Banga Darshan. It was later included in his novel Anandamath in 1882 and he composed it in Sanskrit, right? Vande Mataram was composed in Sanskrit, not Bengali, right? The novel Anandamath is in Bengali, but it was Vande Mataram has been composed in Sanskrit, which depicts the struggle for India's independence, and Anandamath was based on Sannyasi rebellion. Right. The song was set to music by Sri Rabindranath Tagore and it was first sung at the Indian National Congress session in 1896 at Kolkata. Right. So first sung in the Indian National Congress session in 1896 at Kolkata. On 24 January 1950, Dr. Rajendra Prasad, the President of India, announced that while Jan Gan Man would be the national anthem, Vande Mataram would be honored equally as the national song. And India's constitution does not explicitly mention a national song. However, Article 51A Clause A asks citizens to respect the constitution, national flag and national anthem. So this is important information about Vande Mataram which we should know. Then Belagram, it has become the first net zero panchayat. So Belagram, located in Bhandara district of Maharashtra's Vidarbha region, was recognized during Mumbai Climate Week as India's first net zero panchayat. It has achieved this feat by planting over 90,000 trees, installing solar panels, transitioning to LPG and implementing waste segregation. So Belagram, first net zero panchayat. And what is India's net zero target? Net zero by 2070. Right. India's target is net zero by 2070. Then missile test ranges in India. So there's the integrated test range Chandipur, Odisha, located in Balasore district. This is premier defense research and development organization facility for testing rockets, missiles and airborne weapon systems. Then we have Dr. Abdul Kalam Island, Odisha. Earlier it was known as the Wheeler Island, and this site is off the coast of Odisha and used for testing major missiles like the Agni, Prithvi, BrahMos, Astra and Nirbhay. Then a new one is coming up, which is Nagayalanka test range in Andhra Pradesh. It is a new facility initiated in 2025, designed for testing advanced interceptor missiles for phase 2 ballistic missile defense. These locations are chosen for their strategic positioning, allowing overseas testing to safely track missile performance and trajectories. Right, so Nagayalanka test range is important. Then Gyan Bharatam Mission announced in Union Budget 2025-26 national initiative to preserve, digitize and disseminate India's vast manuscript heritage, combining tradition with modern technology for future generations. Over 7.5 lakh manuscripts have been digitized. It is aimed at preserving India's manuscript heritage. Nodal ministry is Ministry of Culture, and with over 44 lakh manuscripts documented in Kriti Sampada, right? Kriti Sampada, which is national database of manuscripts. It preserves India's civilizational knowledge spanning philosophy, science, medicine, mathematics, arts, literature, spirituality, etc. It supports Article 51A Clause F, fundamental duty to value and preserve cultural heritage. Right. So, we should also know about Gyan Bharatam, basically about preserving, digitizing India's vast manuscript heritage. Then 50 years of Indian Coast Guard. So, it was constituted in August 1978 under the Coast Guard Act of 1978, guarding India's 11,098 kilometers coastline and 2.01 million square kilometer EEZ. Right, it comes under Ministry of Defense, and the motto is Vayam Rakshama, we protect. Right, then first National Tribal Health Observatory was in news, and this has been named as the Bharat Tribal Health Observatory (BTHO), and is being established under Project Drishti by Ministry of Tribal Affairs in collaboration with ICMR Regional Medical Research Center, Bhubaneswar. It focuses on tribe disaggregated health data, research driven disease elimination and data driven policies. Then Kaziranga Elevated Corridor and Bagurumba was in news. So, Bagurumba Dwau, it is a major culture festival in Guwahati celebrated by the Bodo community, and Bagurumba dance is classical Bodo folk form inspired by nature, symbolizing harmony between humans and the environment. So, this is of the Bodo community. Now, Kaziranga Elevated Corridor, it aims to ensure safe wildlife movement across Kaziranga National Park and Tiger Reserve, which hosts the world's largest population of one-horned rhino and nearly 500 bird species, while reducing animal vehicle collisions, improving road safety, easing congestion and strengthening connectivity to Upper Assam. That is the Kaziranga Elevated Corridor. Then we come to Grecia Machel. She has received the Indira Gandhi Peace Prize, and she is a Mozambican rights activist and humanitarian, and she has been selected for Indira Gandhi Prize for Peace, Disarmament and Development 2025, and this has been awarded annually since 1986 by the Indira Gandhi Memorial Trust in memory of former Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. Right, then Bhairav battalions were also in news. So, it is Indian Army's newly raised modern warfare force, which is a specialized formation that fills the operational gap between strategic para-special forces and the tactical Ghatak platoons. While Ghatak platoons function at the battalion level for localized assaults, and para-SF executes deep strategic missions behind enemy lines. Bhairav battalions will provide rapid response for immediate border contingencies or short notice offensives. Right, so, this is the Bhairav battalion name you should remember. Then the first biohappy district in India. Right. So, this concept of biohappiness that has been given by Dr. M.S. Swaminathan. Right. Dr. M.S. Swaminathan is to be associated with this term biohappiness. So, the first biohappy district, Kei Panur, right, Kei Panur in Arunachal Pradesh, has become India's first biohappy district, integrating biodiversity conservation with livelihoods, health and sustainability. The biohappy district initiative is being implemented by the M.S. Swaminathan Research Foundation in collaboration with district administration. Biohappiness refers to a state of human well-being achieved when biodiversity is conserved and sustainably used to enhance nutrition, public health, income and livelihoods. So, that is biohappiness. The concept emphasizes harmony between people and nature, making ecological conservation a foundation for development rather than a constraint. Right. Next, we come to very important topic, which is Somnath Temple. Right, Somnath Temple. So, Somnath Swabhiman Parv is being celebrated this year. So, it is year-long activities planned as part of the Somnath Swabhiman Parv. Mahmud of Ghazni plundered the temple in January 1026, right, 1026 AD. Now, the temple was restored and opened on May 11, 1951. Now, the Somnath temple located at Prabhas Patan on Gujarat coast is the first Jyotirling among the 12 Jyotirlingas in India. According to mythology, It was built in phases. First in gold by Somraj, moon god, then in silver by Ravan, and later in wood by Lord Krishna. So gold by it was built in gold. It was built in gold by Somraj, moon god, then in silver by Ravan, and in wood by Lord Krishna. Now King Bhimdev or Bhima I of the Solanki dynasty rebuilt the temple in stone after its destruction by Mahmud of Ghazni in 1026 Common Era. Abadit Samudra Marg, this is also very important. Abadit Samudra Marg, there is a Tirth Stambh at Somnath temple which indicates an unobstructed sea route to the South Pole, with the nearest landmass 9,396 km away, reflecting ancient Indian geographical knowledge. So this is very significant, this Abadit Samudra Marg. Then the temple is built in which style? So the temple is built in Kailash Mahameru Prasad style, which is a subtype of Nagar style. So Kailash Mahameru Prasad style associated with Chalukya Solanki tradition, and it falls under the Nagar style. Now the first attack in 1026 by Mahmud Ghazni was documented by Persian scholar Al-Biruni, right? Al-Biruni. So Al-Biruni also mentions about this attack on Somnath temple, and the temple was looted and destroyed multiple times. For example, in 1026, 1297, 1394 and 1706 during the rule of Aurangzeb. So these are very important facts about Somnath temple, and because the Somnath Swabhiman Parv is being celebrated, so a question is very likely from this area, right? Then this international exposition of the sacred Pipravaha relics in New Delhi. So exposition means a large public exhibition of art or trade goods. Now this Pipravaha relics from 1898 excavation in Kapilavastu, and other relics unearthed from excavation in 1970s, and it was excavated by William Claxton Pepe, who led the 1898 excavation. Now the Pepe family collection of relics was repatriated to India in July 2025 after a joint effort by Ministry of Culture and private partners, Godrej Group, just as they were about to be auctioned by Sotheby's in Hong Kong. Now the discovery of an inscribed cascade in 1898 at the Stupa site in Pipravaha near UP's Siddharthnagar helped identify the place with the ancient Kapilavastu. So Pipravaha relics this year has been in news multiple times. They were also sent to Bhutan last year for the Global Peace Prayer Festival. Right, so Pipravaha relics we should remember, like Pipravaha is a place near Siddharthnagar in India, and these relics are of Lord Buddha. Then INS Condinia was in news. INS Condinia is Indian Navy's indigenously built traditional stitched sailing vessel, and it did a maiden voyage from Porbandar to Muscat in Oman. Now it was constructed using traditional stitched shipbuilding technique, which is known as Tankai method. It is Indian Navy's first stitched ship and named after a legendary Indian mariner, Condinia. Condinia was a 1st century Indian mariner who sailed to Mekong Delta, where he married a warrior queen Soma and co-founded the kingdom of Funan, present-day Cambodia. Now it has been modeled after a vessel depicted in a 5th century Ajanta cave painting, and it features symbolic motifs like Gandhabherund II, which is a two-headed eagle of the Kadamba dynasty who ruled Konkan coast, sun, and Simhayali. Simhayali is a mythical lion on the bow, right? So these are also very significant terms which can be asked in exam. So INS Condinia is also very important for UPSC Prelims 2026. Then in rice production, India has overtaken China to become the world's largest producer of rice this year, right? And rice is a kharif crop. It requires high temperature above 25 degrees Celsius, high humidity, annual rainfall exceeding 100 centimeters for optimum growth, etc. Now the widespread concern that rice crops are unsustainably draining India's already low aquifers, forcing farmers to borrow heavily to drill ever deeper borewells. So it is also a concern because rice is a water intensive crop in India. Now producing a kg of rice consumes 3000 to 4000 liters of water, which is between 20 to 60% more than the global average. Now India grows far more rice than it needs to feed its domestic population. Rice production is highest in West Bengal, followed by UP, followed by Punjab. Now, share of India in global groundwater withdrawal is around 25%. So, it is a concern for India, right? But India has become number 1 in rice. Then Deepavali was in news. Deepavali enters the intangible heritage list of UNESCO last year. So, Deepavali, the festival of lights, was inscribed on UNESCO's representative list of intangible cultural heritage of humanity, and it has become the 16th such item to be listed from India. It acknowledges Deepavali as a living heritage that strengthens social bonds, supports traditional craftsmanship, reinforces values of generosity, well-being, and contributes meaningfully to several SDGs. So, very, very important. Deepavali has been inscribed in the intangible cultural heritage list of UNESCO, and it has become the 16th Indian item. Then there was news about dark patterns and e-commerce firms. So, dark patterns is what we experience on e-commerce websites, where they try to manipulate us into buying things which we don't want to buy, right? So, it basically refers to the deceptive practices used online and designed to trick users into spending when they otherwise would not, such as by creating false urgency or basket sneaking, by adding items by default into a user's cart at the time of checkout, etc. So, the organization which takes action against such things is Central Consumer Protection Authority, and this comes under the Department of Consumer Affairs, and CCPA has published the guidelines for prevention and regulation of dark patterns 2023. Then there was news about the Neoma Advanced Landing Ground, right? Neoma Advanced Landing Ground. India has inaugurated its newest and highest fighter capable airbase at Neoma in Ladakh, built by Border Roads Organization, marking a major boost to the country's air power along the northern front. Right, it supports fighter jet operations. Neoma Changthang Air Base. It lies at an altitude of 13,700 feet. It is the world's highest operational fighter air base, located only 35 km from the line of actual control. Right, so it is very, very significant and strategic location. Again, very important topic from prelims point of view. Lucknow has been added as a UNESCO Creative City of Gastronomy, right, last year. So, declared during the 43rd session of UNESCO General Conference in Uzbekistan, it is the recognition of city's centuries-old Avdi cuisine, living food traditions and inclusive cultural heritage. Now, the UNESCO Creative Cities Network initiative was launched in 2004 to foster cooperation among cities that recognize creativity as a strategic factor for sustainable urban development. It recognizes 7 creative fields: crafts and folk art, Jaipur, Srinagar, right. So, the cities which have been recognized as creative cities in this network from India are these, and only in media arts there is no Indian city, otherwise everywhere we have representation. Crafts and folk art, Jaipur and Srinagar. Then we have film, Mumbai; gastronomy, Hyderabad and Lucknow; literature, Kozhikode; then media arts, no city; and music, Varanasi and Chennai, right. So, these 7 creative fields are there. Then Kerala was in news. We have already seen that it was in news for declaring the state bacteria, right, or state microbe. Then Kerala has also eradicated extreme poverty. So, in May 2021, Kerala launched the Extreme Poverty Eradication Program, EPEP. Then Niti Aayog's National Multidimensional Poverty Index 2023 stated that Kerala was the least impoverished state based on headcount ratio. Just 0.55% of Kerala's population was multidimensionally poor as compared to national average of 14.96%. And Kerala identified individuals under EPEP based on 4-point criteria: access to food, health, means of livelihood and housing. Then there was news about UNESCO's new virtual museum of stolen cultural objects plus Mondia Cult Conference. So, Mondia Cult is the UNESCO World Conference on Culture Policies and Sustainable Development. It is held once every 4 years, and it is the foremost global platform for dialogue and cooperation on culture policies. Now, in 2025, Mondia Cult is hosted by the government of Spain in Barcelona, bringing together ministers of culture from all UNESCO member states, etc. Now, UNESCO has launched a virtual museum of stolen cultural objects, a digital platform aimed at reconnecting communities with their stolen heritage and confronting the illicit trafficking of cultural artifacts. So, 2 Indian artifacts are also featured in this museum of stolen arts, right. So, it is to highlight what has been stolen from countries. So Nataraja figure, which is 9th century sandstone sculpture from Mahadev temple in Pali, Chhattisgarh, representing Shiva's cosmic dance, and Brahma sculpture with 3 faces, 4 arms, seated in Lalitasan, symbolizing creation and knowledge, like again from the same temple. Then first bullet train section to be completed by 2027, that is between Surat and Bilimora, like of the Mumbai Ahmedabad high speed railway. And the technology that is being used is Shinkansen technology of Japan, and the Shanghai Maglev is the world's fastest operational train, reaching a top speed of 460 kilometers per hour. The speed of India's bullet train will be around 320 kilometers per hour. Then very important, the world's first AI minister, Diela from Albania. So Diela is the world's first AI minister, and it would take care of Albania's public procurement process. She was appointed in September 2025. Earlier it served as a virtual assistant on the government website in January 2025. Then she was promoted as minister. Now the Balkan country, which is Albania, has been riddled with corruption and hopes to join EU. Now giving Diela embodies a women's persona and dressed in traditional Albanian attire. Now some other digital assistants which are active in other parts of the world, so Humphrey in UK and Albert in France, they help in bureaucratic work, but they do not have decision making powers, right? So what Albania has done is unprecedented. Now the challenge is that if something goes wrong, then whom do we hold responsible for it, right? So that is the challenge with this, but we should just remember that Albania, Diela, right, the first AI minister in the world. Then National Maritime Heritage Complex is coming up in Lothal, Gujarat. So it's an ambitious culture and tourism project in Lothal, Gujarat, that aims to highlight India's rich and diverse 4,500-year-old maritime heritage and establish the largest maritime heritage complex in the world. Key projects include a world-class lighthouse museum, coastal state pavilions, and maritime-themed eco-resort. Now, under India's Sagarmala program, the Ministry of Ports, Shipping and Waterways is developing the National Maritime Heritage Complex with its Directorate General of Lighthouses and Lightships, funding the world's tallest lighthouse museum here. Right. Then 71st National Film Awards were there. The Dadasaheb Phalke Award for 2023 has gone to Mohanlal, the Malayalam film actor. Then Best Actor Shah Rukh Khan and Vikrant Massey. Then Best Actress Rani Mukherjee, Mrs. Chatterjee vs. Norway. Best Film 12th Fail, Mr. Vidhu Vinod Chopra. Then Kerala has also become the first fully digitally literate state. So many feathers on Kerala's cap. Kerala is the first fully digitally literate state in India, marking the completion of the first phase of the Digi Kerala digital literacy program, which is a grassroots level intervention across all local self-government bodies with an aim to bridge the digital divide. As per National Digital Literacy Mission, guidelines for digital literacy training needs to be provided only for those up to 60 years of age, but the Digi Kerala program includes people of all ages, right? So it goes one step further. Then Magsaysay Award, very important, right? So one Indian NGO has received this award, Raman Magsaysay Award, the Foundation to Educate Girls Globally, widely known as Educate Girls. Full name is Foundation to Educate Girls Globally. It's an Indian non-profit working to bring out-of-school girls into classrooms, is among the 2025 Magsaysay awardees. Educate Girls has made history as the first Indian organization to receive the award. Very important. First Indian organization. Earlier individuals have won the award, but it is the first organization, Indian organization, to win the award. Now, other two winners of Raman Magsaysay this year were Shahina Ali from Maldives for her environmental work and Flaviana Antonio L. Villanueva from Philippines for her lifelong mission to uphold dignity of the poor and oppressed. Raman Magsaysay Awards were started in 1958 to celebrate the greatness of spirit and transformative leadership in Asia. India's Olympic body has approved the 2030 Commonwealth Games bid. So India will be hosting it in Ahmedabad, 2030 Commonwealth Games. Then Vizhinjam Port was in news. Vizhinjam Port is India's first deep deep sea port, right? So Prime Minister Modi inaugurated the Vizhinjam International Seaport in Kerala, marking a significant milestone in India's maritime infrastructure. It is India's first deep water transshipment port designed for container and multi-purpose cargo. The port has been developed under PPP model on a design, build, finance, operate and transfer basis, right? And strategic location is there. It is just 10 nautical miles from the major international shipping routes connecting Europe, Persian Gulf and Far East, right? And it enhances accessibility for large vessels, right? Then Vizhinjam Seaport is India's first semi-automated port. Then the port will reduce India's reliance on international facilities, as 75% of transshipment cargo is currently handled abroad, right? So this is very, very significant, Vizhinjam port. Then rail link to Aizawl, right? So Mizoram has been connected by rail link last year. So Mizoram's capital Aizawl has been successfully connected to the national railway network by the Bairabi Serang rail line. So this rail line we should remember, Bairabi Serang rail line, becoming the fourth northeastern capital with rail access after Dispur, that is Guwahati, Agartala and Itanagar. Indian Railways recently commissioned 51.38 km track to Serang, which is just 18 km from Aizawl. It raises hopes for India's Act East policy, which envisages a rail and road link to Southeast Asia. Right. Indian Railways was established in 1853. The country's first train journey covered 21 miles between Bombay and Thane. India has the fourth largest railway network in the world, following US, China and Russia. Right. Then Chola dynasty was also in news, and they were in news for a particular type of democratic system that was there in Chola period. So Prime Minister Modi attended the Adi Thiruvathirai festival, marking the birth anniversary of Rajendra Chola I. PM paid glowing tributes to the military might and administrative acumen of Rajendra Chola I and his father Rajaraja Chola. Rajendra I had built Gangaikonda Cholapuram, ancient capital of the imperial Cholas, along with the Brihadeswara temple, right? So these are important. And the Chola Gangam, a massive lake, after his victorious expedition to Gangetic Plains about 1000 years ago. Chola rulers had diplomatic and trade relations with Sri Lanka, Maldives and Southeast Asia, right? And there has been inscriptions found in a place called Uttara Merur, a village in present day Kanchipuram district, which offers some of the world's earliest surviving evidence of formal electoral system, right? The method of voting called Kuda Volai system, right? So Kuda Volai system, method of voting, Kuda Volai system. This is important. Kuda Volai system or ballot pot election. Under this method, the names of eligible candidates were inscribed on palm leaves and placed inside a pot. A young boy, typically chosen for impartiality, would draw the lot in public view. So this is the that was the way of election, right? Fair elections in under the Chola rule. Chola rule, also known for its water management, tax and land revenue collection and democratic processes. So very important is this. Then Yuge Yugin Bharat National Museum. So British era buildings, North Block and South Block, they house key administrative buildings such as the Office of the Prime Minister and Ministries of Defence, Home, External Affairs, etc. These were built by British architect Herbert Baker and inaugurated in 1921. Now, once the offices move out of the North Block and South Block, these will be turned into a museum, which will be called Yuge Yugin Bharat National Museum. The shifting of offices is part of the Central Vista redevelopment project, and the museum will be based on the Louvre Museum in Paris. So India will be collaborating with France for this Yuge Yugin Bharat Museum. Right. Then Swachh Sarveshan 2024-25 was there. So the cleanest city under this. So Swachh Shahar category with over 10 lakh population. Ahmedabad was number 1, followed by Bhopal and Lucknow. And Mira, and for 3 to 10 lakh category, number 1 to 3 were Mira Bhayandar in Maharashtra, Bilaspur in Madhya Pradesh and Jamshedpur in Jharkhand. Now, Indore, Surat, Navi Mumbai and Vijayawada were among 23 cities that entered the newly introduced Super Swachh League, which recognizes sustained excellence in cleanliness among cities in the million plus population category. Million plus means 10 lakh plus population category. Noida, Chandigarh and Mysore in 3 to 10 lakh population category, while New Delhi made the cut in 50,000 to 3 lakh category of the Super Swachh League, right. So, these cities were shifted to the Super Swachh League. The annual theme for 2025 was reduce, reuse, recycle, promoting circular economy principles. Now, Swachh Bharat mission was launched on 2nd October 2014. Swachh Bharat Mission Gramin under Ministry of Jal Shakti and Swachh Bharat Mission Urban under Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, right, Housing and Urban Affairs. So, this we should know that Swachh Bharat Mission Gramin is under Ministry of Jal Shakti and Swachh Bharat Mission Urban is under Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. Now, the 9th edition of Swachh Sarvekshan became the world's largest cleanliness survey, provides policy makers and city managers a reality check on urban sanitation and waste management. Right. Then the zero dose children were also in news. Zero dose children means those children who have not received any dose of vaccination. So, they are zero dose children. And right, they are a crucial performance marker of a country's immunization system and indicate inequities in vaccine coverage. India accounts for 6.4% of the global population of zero dose children in 2024, and over 50% of zero dose children are concentrated in just 10 countries. Right, then very important is this Maratha fort systems get UNESCO World Heritage Site status, very significant and very likely to be asked in UPSC Prelims 2026. So, Maratha military landscapes of India listed in UNESCO World Heritage Site during 47th session of World Heritage Committee held in Paris in July 2025. So, it includes 12 forts, right? Salher Fort, Sivneri Fort, Lohagarh, Khanderi, Raigad, Rajgarh, Pratapgarh, Suvarndurg, Panhala Fort, Vijayadurg, Sindhudurg, all in Maharashtra, and only Jinji Fort is in Tamil Nadu, right. So, this is very significant. It can be asked that which of the forts is not in Maharashtra. So, it is the Jinji Fort in Tamil Nadu. Now, it has become India's 44th World Heritage Site. Other than that, 3 locations used by Cambodia's brutal Khmer Rouge regime as torture and execution sites 50 years ago have also been added to UNESCO's World Heritage Site list. It coincides with 50th anniversary of rise to power of the communist Khmer Rouge government, which caused death of estimated 1.7 million during 4-year reign from 1975 to 1979, right. So, Khmer Rouge also we should know, Cambodia, present day Cambodia, right. So, their torture and execution sites have also been added to the World Heritage Site list. Right. Then there was this global gender gap report. It is released by World Economic Forum. So, India ranks 131 out of 148 countries with particularly low score in economic participation and health and survival, pillars essential for meaningful gender parity. India's rank has actually come down from 129th in 2024. Pakistan is having the last rank, 148 out of 148, and it will take 123 years. It was 132 years in 2024 to reach gender parity. According to World Economic Forum's Global Gender Gap Report 2025, Iceland tops the ranking for 16th year in a row, right. So, that is also significant and important. Now, it has been published annually since 2006 and it is the longest standing global index for assessing gender equality, measuring countries' progress in closing gender gaps across 4 key dimensions: economic participation and opportunity, educational attainment, health and survival, political empowerment, right. The final topic is first National Cooperative University in India. So, foundation stone was laid in Gujarat's Anandpur Tribhuvan Sehkari University. It will meet the need for trained professionals in cooperatives, bring transparency, foster innovation and provide technical education, etc. CBSE has also launched a special course on cooperatives. The university is named after Tribhuvan Das Kishanbhai Patel, a pioneer of the cooperative movement in India and a key figure behind foundation of Amul, right. So, this has been a marathon session and very fast revision of current affairs. I hope it will be helpful for you in boosting your score in prelims. So, please do a thorough revision of whatever topics we have covered here, and the series will continue with other subjects in the Drishti booster series, which is available on YouTube for all of you. And this is it from my side on in current affairs. All the very best, and I'll meet you again with the international relations topics when we conclude this series. So, I'll see you then. Till then, all the best and study well. Thank you.
For more informative content, like, share and subscribe, and do not forget to press the bell icon to get the notifications.